Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Summit the board game, published by Inside Up Games. This is a fully sleeved copy of the game that has no lid lift and also includes the Yeti and Teamwork expansions all in the core box. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. Let's get started organizing Summit the board game. First off, we lift the lid here, and inside you're going to see that draped on top we have the rulebooks for the game. We have two different rulebooks, the competitive rulebook as well as the cooperative solo rulebook, followed by our two rules leaflets that come with the Yeti expansion as well as the Teams expansion. So you'll have those all on top, keep them nice and flat. Next, we have our game board, which has two sides, one for the competitive and one for the cooperative mode, denoted by this icon in the upper right. For example, as handshake is the cooperative and solo mode. If it has a medal, that is going to be for the competitive game. So you'll take that out and place it on the center of the board based on what mode you're playing. And underneath that, you're going to see our main section of the box here, which is divided into three distinct parts. You'll notice that the insert has actually been removed from the game box, and that's because the sleeves we're using didn't quite fit nicely into the game box, and it actually slowed down the setup of the game quite a bit. So we've organized it a bit here, but we've kept some of the original trays and then cut and rearranged some of the others, and you'll see them as we go through these three distinct sections. Let's go ahead and start off with this bottom one. First off, we have our player pieces that have their karma tokens, your flag tokens, your various player markers, as well as your mountaineer. You'll toss this to each player based on the color they decide to be. We have this for all of the 6 different colors in the game in their own individual bags. Once again, just toss them to the appropriate player. Underneath all the player components, we have a hardware storage case. This is a small organizer from the Dollar Tree. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find these. Simple organizer that's only $1. You pop the lid off, you put it on the table, and it's ready to go. I love that you don't have any annoying bags or anything to look through, and everything is set up right from the get-go. In our token container here, we have all of our various black tokens. Some of the events will call for certain ones of these, but in this small upper section up here, these are going to be your every game tokens. You have your number tokens for the items, your weather marker, as well as your time marker, and then lastly you'll have for the 4-player game an additional marker for the weather. That way you can track based on every other event as opposed to just the original event in the 1 to 3 player mode. So all of these will be your every game tokens, and then we have a variety of other tokens based on what may populate the board, and even your Yeti expansion pieces are in here as well. Up next, we have in this bottom left corner all of the tiles from the Teams expansion. So you'll pile those all up into the corner, and if you're using them, go ahead and bring them out. Underneath all of your Teams tiles, we have all the character mats. I really like how the boards are recessed here. You'll also include all the mats from the expansion content. And lastly, in this bottom section, we have our silica gel packets for some freshness, as well as our weather and event dice. And that brings us to our middle section, which we'll actually keep from the original insert. I really like that you can just take it out and place it near the center of the table, and these are going to be the tiles that you're going to be drawing. Just make sure that you shuffle them up and then place them in here appropriately. Once again, I really like this system, and I think that this organizer is fantastic for just getting that game started and then having a place where you can shuffle everything after your game so that it's ready to go for the next time you play. Wonderful little organizer here. That brings us to our last section here where we store all of the cards as well as the remaining tiles. The sleeves that we use for the game are the standard European board game size Fantasy Flight sleeves. We'll leave a link in the description below where you can find sleeves of this size. We did try using the standard American board game size. That's the green Gamegenic sleeves or green Fantasy Flight sleeves, but they were a bit too small and they were causing the cards to bend. So we went ahead and sized up a bit, but I still think they work very, very well and they shuffle great. I really like these sleeves. As you can see, the cards are divided into 2 distinct sections, separated by this organizer that's actually retained from the original organizer in the box. We'll go ahead and slide this out here, and inside you'll see that we have all of the tiles based on the player counts. So these are going to be our different summits, as well as our different base camps based on the player counts that we're using. So make sure to use the appropriate ones for your player count. And underneath that, we have all of the different active player tiles. So we'll go ahead and choose the one that we want based on its effect, and then all of the stands for the active player cards underneath that. I really like the way that this insert holds everything, so I went ahead and just actually cut it out from the base game, and it works perfectly for keeping the cards separated and keeping everything nice and snug. So I really like this system. Now that brings us into our 2 distinct sections of cards. First off, on this left side, we have all of our expansion content. So this is for the Teams and Yeti expansions. Go ahead and put those and integrate them in with the core cards when you're ready to include them. And that brings us to our last section of cards here, and there are some things that you should know about organizing these. First off, based on the mode of play, you're going to be using these different symbols. For example, this medal here is for the competitive mode. So if you're not playing the competitive, just take out all the cards with those medals and separate them accordingly. So you want to make sure that they're not only separated by that symbol, but also by the back of the cards. You got your items, event cards, and then your karma cards. So you'll take all of those out appropriately. And if you're playing only the cooperative mode, you actually aren't going to be using these karma cards at all, so that's something you should be aware of. Even the reference cards are double-sided, saying, hey, this is for competitive, and this is for cooperative. So something that you need to be aware of when you're organizing based on the mode that you prefer to play. We currently have the deck set up for cooperative play, so we have all of our gray item cards as well as our blue event cards on this right side, separated by those reference cards. So shuffle them up and put them in their appropriate areas. And that is everything in the box. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, we'll start off with all of the cards on the right side here for the base game. Then we'll place all of our expansion cards on the left side here with that plastic divider in the middle separating those two decks of cards and holding all of your tiles. Speaking of holding tiles, we'll take all of your map tiles and place them in the center here in the organizer that comes with the game. Then we'll take our player mats, our teams tiles, our event dice and weather dice, and our silica gel packets and place them in this bottom section. We'll finish up this bottom section with our token organizer here, followed by all of our player components. And we'll cover everything with the game board as well as all the rule books, the cooperative, competitive, and expansion pamphlets. So that'll all go here on the top. And that is organizing Summit the board game. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Summit the board game? Is this a game that you enjoy playing cooperative, competitively, or solo? We'd love to hear your take on the game and what you think of it overall. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.